This is the MIDI device setup video. And let's go up to view where everything's all, we've been going up here a lot, haven't we? MIDI workshop, open that up. And this is the only window we need because we need to go up to options and to MIDI device setup. Now the MIDI device setup window opens up and you have in this window it's a lot just it works the same way as all the other setup windows. You can go down, you know, you have 24, here's your first 12, click that, you have your next 24, you have your ins and outs, and over here you select your devices. Or mainly what you're really selecting here is, let me give you a little overview here just so to help you understand if you don't understand. A lot of people don't understand MIDI, and I didn't either until I took the time to learn, and it was quite confusing. But anyways, just to sum it up and make it simple, the MIDI device is a keyboard, a tone generator, a drum machine. That's a device. I don't know why they didn't say MIDI keyboard setup or MIDI, you know, it would make it a lot easier. Some of the terminology is what makes it so confusing. But this is, you can take that word out of there, and whatever if you have a synthesizer, say MIDI keyboard setup or MIDI drum set setup. That will help you understand what a device is. Okay, got that out of the way. Okay, so the first thing I do is when I'm setting up my keyboard, my MIDI keyboard here, I have a Yamaha S80, and I'm gonna have this running on port 1. I'm gonna left click in there, and I'm gonna type in S80. So I know, and I press enter, and now I know that this port is designated to my S80. And then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to assign an interface, and that would be my M audio USB MIDI 1x1 is hooked into the back of my synthesizer, going into the computer, and now all I have to do is select this port, and its MIDI workstation is communicating with my S80. If you have other devices, and I have another device, I have my sound card, which is in my computer, and that has that's a tone generator inside the actual audio card. So I'm going to click in there, and I'm just going to type in sound card PC. Yeah, so I know that's the sound card in my personal computer, and then I'll go over here and I'm going to select that, and that is right here, SoundMax WDM MIDI. I use it for my click track in MIDI workstation. That way I can use my S80 to do other sounds. And here you can set this up for your virtual instruments, your VSTs, and I'll say this is a VST virtual port 1, because you have some virtual ports here. MIDI workstation virtual port. What is a virtual port? Well, it's not like my USB MIDI 1x1, which I can hold, and you know, it's hardware. This is hardware. This is virtual hardware. Now the virtual port, what this will do is what it does is communicate with the VST instruments. So if I'm playing, if I've got some MIDI data in MIDI workstation that I recorded, I can send that to the VST instrument. But how do I link it? How do I link MIDI workstation to the VST instrument? I can't use my MIDI 1x1 because that's going to my S80. Well, how I do it is I use a virtual port, and it links. If I set MIDI workstation to virtual port 1 and then go up into the VST instrument and select virtual port 1, or what it will be called VST1, they will communicate, and you can see that in those videos. But when I'm selecting that in those videos, that's what I did. I just set it up here and I name it what I want. And then I designate it to this actual input here, or virtual interface, if you want to call it that. So I want a couple more of these. I'm going to call this VST2 and VST3. So then I'll just go over here. There's 2 and there's 3. That's all I'll need. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 devices set up. One device is my S80. One device is the tone generator inside my sound card. And then 3 of them are my VST, any VST instrument I want to use. These are devices. A VST instrument is a device. So, okay, now we'll do our inputs. Inputs are a little different. An input comes from a device, right? My S80. So I'm going to name that input device my S80. And how does my S80 get into Midi Workstation? Well, it gets in through my USB MIDI 1x1. There it goes. That's about it. This is the interface I am using to get my S80 into Midi Workstation. And these are the interfaces that I have to go out of Midi Workstation. When I have my data here, I can send that data out to my S80, I can send it into my sound card, or to any number of VST instruments. Okay, sorry for making that long, but I know there's a lot of people out there that that kind of MIDI confuses them. I thought that I might try and help them out. But that's how you set up your MIDI device in Midi Workstation. But just remember, a device, that's how you set up your MIDI keyboard, or your MIDI drum machine, or your MIDI tone generator in Midi Workstation. Remember that. Devices are synthesizers and drum machines. And you press OK. Just make sure to go to File, right here, Preferences File, and Save as Default. So you don't have to go in there again. See, it's all saved. And every time you open it up, it will be there. So, okay, sorry for making that long, but that is the MIDI device setup in Midi Workstation.